Good morrow, everybody. Welcome again to my channel, The Nutshell. And here we're going to be discussing Bridgerton Season 3, Episode 4, Part 1. And the title of the episode was Old Friends. Before I get into it, I want to give a shout out to a new subby, Rani D. Thank you so much. You listened and you acted, and I'm so thankful to everyone who's participating in and contributing to me reaching my goal for 1,000 subscribers. I'm trying to grow this channel, so everyone who's a part of that journey is someone that I want to acknowledge. I know there's so many of you. I'm going to work out a way to shout out everyone who's been a part of this journey some way somehow. So let's get into it. We're in the Featherington house, and there is good news. It's no longer just a house for doom and gloom. Penelope has a caller, and that caller is Lord Debling, someone who is high ranking, and in my opinion, honestly, his looks aren't that bad. And Portia calls over her daughters, Philippa and Prudence, and Philippa is admonishing Prudence for rushing her because she had been throwing up all night. So she says you can't treat a pregnant woman that way. And Prudence tells her, you know, what makes you think you're pregnant? Morning sickness is it only happens in the morning. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, the misconception and cluelessness still about the different phases that are experienced in womanhood it's still going on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Jesus, take the wheel, please. Anyway, so Portia and Portia, Philippa, and Prudence, they're so confused. They're perplexed by this match. And, they're whispering behind the door where Penelope is being called upon. And in that conversation, they still are overlooking and underestimating Penelope's capabilities and virtues. They're saying the only way she could have snagged Lord Debling is if something scandalous happened. And I'm like, jealous much? Just cause y'all got low ranking or even no ranking men doesn't mean you have to hate on your sisters. They think they are superior to Penelope in some way, shape, or form. And clearly, unbeknownst to them, but known to us, the viewers, as she writes under the pen name of Whistledown, we know she's far more, as far as intellect goes, superior to her sisters. I love the conversation that was being had in the house, and how her mother was trying to kind of like say, I'm going to save the day, because Penelope doesn't have the help of Lord Bridgerton and Colin Bridgerton. She's going to fumble this whole match. And I was like, the girl got it in the bag, yo. Anyway, she's just like, oh, we have you to thank for coming into our drawing room, because Penelope, all she does, she just used to sit by the window and stare outside all day. And I was just like, okay, I know this window comment will come full circle some way somehow. I haven't figured it out yet, but Lord Debling, takes this as a moment not to gloat or participate in the negging of Penelope, but instead he asks her why she sits out there, if like it's a comfortable place for her to sit. And she says no, she just likes the view there, but now she's moving on to other things. And that statement is significant because right across that window is the Bridgerton house, and as we know, she used to be friends with Eloise, and more importantly, she's had like the longest crush on Colin, but like she's moving on to that. And something that I forgot to mention is that Debling came over with a plant, and he said, "Oh, yeah, this is something that I'd like to give to you so that you can enjoy nature from the comfort of, you know, your window or your home." And I'm like, Debling, he listens, and he takes action on what she says. Because in the previous episode at that ball, she said that she enjoys nature from the comfort of her home. So he's like, oh man, golden stars for you, Debling. Meanwhile, at the Bridgerton house, Colin is poring over his journal entries, and he's reading them because he knows that Penelope was really encouraging him to continue writing, and she praised him for his talent. And I think he was just trying to hold on to anything that Penelope praised him for, because he says that Penelope has been the one constant in his life that has inspired him. And I feel like where we left off in that other ball, he felt like he might be losing Penelope. So while he's doing that, he's interrupted by Violet, who is requesting that he be present while Marquessa Madame calls on Francesca. And he's really not in the mood, specifically because he's like lovesick. Not really lovesick, but how should I put it? I don't know. He just feels down. He has the blues. And he's just, and he gives the excuse of him being of no use, because he'd eat all the pastries or all the biscuits there. And Violet realizes that he is sad because of, like, motherly intuition, and you just know these things. So she presses him about the question that he asked about the ball. She knows what's up, but then she wants it to come from him. She doesn't want to expose the fact that she knows. So the question about love and friendship that Colin asked her about, and Colin dismisses it and says it was only speculative, and he thanks his mom, but he kind of like wants to drop that subject, and he pushes her away, like, gently, but he doesn't want her prying and seeing what's inside his heart. On the other hand, the other Bridgerton brother, Benedict, goes to call on Lady Tilly Arnold, and while he's at her house, he finds her scolding her solicitor for overcharging her. Anyways, that doesn't even matter. He says that he has come to her house to call on her, and I'm just like, okay, Benedict, I thought you were uncomfortable with the whole idea of pursuing like marriage relationships. And Lady Tilly says she does not want to be called on. Flash into the next scene where they're kissing in the bedroom, about to get it on. Then at the Danbury house, we see Agatha and Marcus over lunch, sitting together and talking, and Marcus is recounting a funny story, which ends with him and the rest of Lady Agatha's staff, who's in attendance there, laughing. Agatha does not give him even a chuckle or even a smile. She is completely mirthless. I hope I'm using that word right. And she questions Marcus about the purpose of his visit. And Marcus tells her that he is lonely at his country estate and he only has staff for company. So he's come to Mayfair, looking for company and seeking female companionship. Agatha is completely unempathetic, and she's just like, okay, listen, so lucky for you, I have things to attend to, so you can seek out all the ladies that you like. So to me, my initial impression, of course, was that, does she not like her brother? She's not malicious towards him, but she doesn't seem to have any form of affection towards him. Marcus, by that statement, we see from his facial expression, he's disappointed in her lack of wanting to be involved in as far as keeping him company and all that sort. But it also seems to be something that he is familiar between the two of them. So perhaps there's some old beef brewing that we are yet to learn about. Who knows? Over at the palace where Queen Charlotte resides, she is reading a copy of Whistledown, and she's pleased because Whistledown has written positively about her. She's lavished her with praises, and specifically, quote, a person, she calls Queen Charlotte a person in whom thought and feeling are united. And she says, she writes this considering, because Queen Charlotte has arranged a potentially successful match between her sparkler and Lord Samadani. So because of this, Queen Charlotte plans to arrange an exquisite gathering for the town to celebrate their good standing as far as Whistledown is concerned. And Brimsley also suggests that it might be a chance to secure the match for Samadani and Francesca in this gathering. I love the relationship between Queen Charlotte and Brimsley. They're truly, yes, I know there's like a hierarchy and he waits on her, but they seem to be friends. Violet and her clan, that's specifically Eloise, Hyacinth, I want to say Gregory and Francesca, they're waiting in the drawing room expecting Samadani. And Violet is so excited. She had her cook or her pastry chef like to speak to Samadani's people, and they created this they recreated a pastry that he likes or he's fond of called millefeuille, that's made to his standards. She really goes in. She goes in for her kids, and she's really serious about making this match. And so while they're waiting, a caller is announced, and so we're all expecting Samadani to come in, but instead it's that guy, that mysterious guy that Francesca met at the previous ball. And so he says that he announces himself, and he introduces himself as John Sterling, the Earl of Kilmartin, and he says that, even though he hasn't been formally introduced to, the Bridgerton family, he has come to call on a Bridgerton daughter. So Eloise hides behind Greg, assuming it's her, but then it isn't her that he is talking about. He wants to call on Francesca. Okay, but then before all that happens, Hyacinth notices like there's an awkward moment, and so she's trying to break the ice, and she's like, oh, it's a pleasure to meet you, Lord Samadani. But then he isn't Lord Samadani, and that's when he introduces himself. Violet is very surprised. She did not anticipate any of that because she missed how they met, how Francesca and John Sterling met. Completely unbothered by Violet's surprise and somewhat confusion, he grabs Francesca aside and asks whether they could sit together. They do so in silence, and they are happy about it. Shortly, like 15 seconds into that quiet sitting, okay, let me not say shortly, as they're sitting, the entire Bridgerton, not the entire Bridgerton, but the other Bridgerton people in the drawing room, they're just very confused about, that type of interaction, and they're wondering how they will get to know each other if they don't talk. So there's some concern there. Eloise is amazed, and while they're contemplating about what is going on, another caller is announced, and it is none other than Lord Samadani. He arrives, and he is completely different from John Sterling. He's full of life, he's chattery, and he's charming. How he introduces himself to everybody, he, he's just so full of life. I think he's a little bit charismatic, and that might be up Violet's alley, especially after he tries the pastry and he seems to enjoy it. So he, in no particular sequence, he goes and introduces himself to Kilmartin and Francesca. He kisses her hand, and he looks at John in a non-threatening way, but he's like, oh, I don't believe we've been introduced to one another. Kilmartin introduces himself and then just bounces. He excuses himself. I like that. No, there's no drama. He came and staked his claim. He found that there was a spark, there was chemistry there, and he didn't want the situation to be uncomfortable. He left it in Francesca's court. I like that. Meanwhile, the Mondriches, they start discussing the alleged and really insincere concern from the other lords about Will's club. And from the last episode, we heard that members of society do not work. So Alison is all about complying with the Lord's concern in order to avoid confusion, like amongst the Bridgerton, amongst the members of the town, and scrutiny or judgment for them, because she's scared that they won't be accepted and they have to comply with the town's society rules. Will, on the other hand, is resolved to keep his club because he worked hard for it, and he's not just going to give it up because that is the way things are done. The next event that we see, the members of the town walk into a magnificent, what I thought was a home, but truly just ended up being a library, where the host is sharing his extensive book collection that he's been collecting since 1790. So, of course, the host is an unknown lord. We see the Featheringtons, particularly in there, and Portia catches Penelope reading a book, and she discourages her from reading it, and instead encourages her to let Lord Debling mansplain it to her instead, so he doesn't feel superfluous and unmanned. These are words, unmanned, straight from her mouth. So it's surprising to me that this society encourages, let me put it this way. It's surprising to me that in this society, women really push forward the sexism or the patriarchy. I usually used to think that it's the men who would insist on the patriarchy, but it shows that women also contributed to, and I use this word loosely, but the limitation of women. So, Lord Debling, he turns out he's not sexist at all, and he was impressed by Penelope's interest in the book that she was holding, and it shows that he likes Penelope for her mind. He just doesn't want a daft chick who looks good. He doesn't want someone who conforms to society like that, because he himself does not conform to society. The Bridgertons are also in attendance, particularly Colin, Francesca, Eloise, and they are accompanied by Samadani, and their mother Violet is also there. Samadani mentions that he also collects books. Eloise is not impressed by that. Instead, she says sarcastically, yes, because that is what books should be done, collected. Where in her meaning, she's a passionate reader, and books are meant. She's more impressed by someone who's read many books as opposed to someone who just collects books. Other people, Francesca and Colin, they are looking for other people in the crowd. They're not even, and Eloise as well, they're not really there for the books. Colin is looking for Penelope. Francesca is searching for John Sterling, and Eloise is searching for friends. Eloise finds Cressida, who is looking at Penelope and Lord Debling talking, and she's just sad, and she's like, how do I put it? She's stewing in the what is the word that I want to she's stewing in the fact that she can't secure Debling. And Eloise, I found in that scene, she was still out of touch with like empathy. She's not really empathetic that much to Cressida. Instead of comforting her, she's joking about it, about Cressida, how she's explaining her situation, where because she has not secured a match, her her parents are going to arrange for her to get married off to one of her father's friends. And Eloise jokes about it, saying that it resonates with German literature. And I'm like, Eloise, get a grip. Sometimes I used to find her very forward thinking, and she is one of my favorite Bridgertons, but man, sometimes she's just out of it, and I feel like telling her to get a grip and grow up. Colin is a hot commodity there. You see, like the young debutantes are there flattering their fans, looking his way, especially since the balloon incident. And even though he has so many admirers, you find him, he's still looking out. He's still looking out after Penelope and staring at him and at her and Lord Debling. He tries to distract himself with conversation with the other gentlemen who encourage him to like join them for some revelry. And here, revelry means a party. Debling catches Penelope distracted by Colin, and he asks her about, about that distraction. Like, who are you looking for? Is there someone that you're looking for? And not in a jealous way, but more in okay, I'm here, you know. Shorty come my way, shorty come my way, type of way. And then they start talking. She says, oh no, she's just merely looking at all the books that are there. She likes reading books. Then he asks her what her preferred book is, and she talks about enjoying different genres, but what she finds herself being drawn to is books on love. And then she catches herself saying that and apologizing for it because she doesn't want to look vapid. And Lord Debling tells her, listen, you shouldn't apologize for that. I love that you're a person who is passionate about something, just as I am passionate about my research and I enjoy it. And that makes us very much alike. So I'm like, listen, Penelope, you do not need to apologize for anything. And Lord Debling is ticking many boxes, honestly. So he changes the topic and he starts talking about a hypothetical situation where there's a book where a man who travels and he's away from home and he's looking, to find a wife who can tend to his estate while he is gone, excuse me. And if such a man were to ask that type of lady for permission to marry him, do you think that woman who doesn't have a male relative, if he asked her mother for permission to marry, if like what he should do about it, then she said she that hypothetical man should ask the mother for the daughter's hand in marriage. And then he goes on to ask that if he did so, hypothetically speaking, would would the daughter say yes? And while he's asking that question, of course Penelope realizes that he is indirectly asking about their situation. And I think she's rather surprised, but she also looks to Colin and she's not quite sure. She's not quite sure about how to resolve the feelings she has for Colin and Debling. And instead of giving him like an direct answer, she says, I guess you'll just have to read the book. You just have to see how things go. And I loved that about him. For me, one of the ways, okay, I said with these things, I'm not going to, as I'm doing these reviews, I'm not going to talk about my personal life, so I think I should stick to that. I loved how that conversation went. I like a little bit of directness in my life, but I also like someone who can keep me guessing and goes about asking questions like in a tactful way. And I think that's what he did. I am so sorry about that yawn. Meanwhile, Colin is trying to get over the fact that he can't be with Penelope and Penelope is with Lord Debling. He doesn't want to ruin her chances, especially if he's uncertain within himself. You see an internal battle going on with Colin over his mind and in his heart. So he continues in his old ways of engaging in threesomes. Lord Jesus, take the wheel. And as he's participating in this event, you can see he's totally out of it. And one of the ladies of the night who's there asks him, hey, are you feeling all right? And he's just like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just not feeling it today. And it just shows, I'm not going to go into it because personally it's not my cup of tea. And the point that I want to put across is that he thought that he could distract himself or he could forget by engaging in these scandalous sexual activities, but then it's not doing it for him anymore, and he's not interested because all he can think about is Penelope. And this is where I am going to leave it off. Question: do we like Debling and Penelope, or are we rooting for Colin and Penelope? I always like a friends to lovers story, but one thing that I love more than that is I love a gentleman, a man who knows who he is and what he wants and doesn't have to go through put himself through he doesn't have to go through a bunch of women to realize that, or to admit to himself that he's in love with a particular woman and he can't get that woman out of his head. So right now, for me, where I'm at, I am team Penelope and Debling. Let me know what you think. All right, until the next one, stay safe, y'all. Bye.